So our next speaker is going to be Mr. David Suzuki. And David, it's an honor to have you with us here today. And David's personal intro is that he is a grandfather. And how many grandchildren, David?
10.
10 grandchildren. Wow.
But I'd feel the same way if I had one grandchild. It's not the number. We're told that the speakers here must not say words like TMX, pipelines, or resource extraction like oil and gas. Have you ever heard anything more outrageous than that? An outrageous demonstration of what the problem is. The fossil fuel industry has just got a huge amount of power, and they'll apply it here for what they're trying to do. So I congratulate the organizers of this meeting. I think it's a very important one. I'm sorry I have to be here to give you my comments, but let me take advantage of it. I don't know if George is still here. George, you listen to me. As Christine, I'm sure, is still here. Yeah. I think we've never had better people as the environment minister provincially, at the level of the city council. I was urging her in the last run, she ought to run for mayor. We've got the best possible person as the Minister of the Environment federally, Steven Guilbeault. And yet, what's the problem? They can't even tell us the truth about how serious the issue is now because of politics. So George is going to go around and tell you all the wonderful things that he's doing. Yes, those things have to be done, but they're incremental change. We need the big changes. We have to get off fossil fuels. And the problem is, George is a minister of the environment. So let's tackle mining, one of the most destructive things. Oh, sorry, that's not in the environment. Well, what about forestry? We're still cutting down old-growth forests. Oh, that's not in George's area. Well, what about the energy we use? Sorry, wrong. What the hell are you the minister of, George? The environment is everything. I told you, you're the big honcho. You're the guy we're all here to support. The problem is politics itself. And it's the same thing with Steven Guilbeault. He's telling us all these, new parks, increase the carbon tax, all of it. Wait, these all have to be done. But he's not making the big decisions, which is we've got to reduce emissions very, very rapidly, starting yesterday. Why aren't they telling us the truth? I won't tell you his name, he's a representative from British Columbia. He's a Liberal. He's been a supporter of the Suzuki Foundation. I met him at a fundraising event, and I said, listen, why aren't you guys doing the big things? And he said, well, if we do that, Polyev will get in, and that'll be even worse. So politics is preventing them from even telling us how bad the situation is. We can't keep going on. When the NDP was in power, the second NDP government under Glenn Clark, and Mo Sahota was there, the Minister of the Environment, and I'd go in and I'd tell him, look, this isn't enough, you've got to do this. And his final answer, rather than confronting the issue, was, oh, who are you going to vote for? You don't like what we're doing? Tough, get out of here. Basically, and this is a guy now who speaks every Monday morning on CBC, representing not only the NDP, but the government. He speaks on behalf of the NDP government, and he's a lobbyist for LNG. He's a lobbyist for a forestry company. What the hell is going on? Okay, this isn't what I had intended to do when I got up. The big issue is I'm a biologist, and so as a biologist, I look in terms at our presence here in evolutionary terms. And it's quite remarkable that we have become, in a very short, evolutionarily speaking, period of time, to become the dominant animal on the planet. This is amazing. There's never been an animal take the kind of position that we have. We are so numerous and so demanding of Earth that we are now the major force altering the chemical, physical, and biological properties of the planet. on a geological scale. That's why scientists have suggested this is the Anthropocene epoch, the geological period when humans are affecting the properties of the planet on a rapid scale. And I was shocked to see just last week that scientists are saying, no, we're out of the Anthropocene epoch into the Pyrocene epoch. This is a period when fire is going to be the dominant force now, shaping the properties of the planet. And in my lifetime, we've come to be this powerful force. How the hell did we get here? I'm a geneticist, and it's always amazed me at what scientists can do now with DNA, the genetic material. And you can begin to compare various groups of people and then get an idea when they separated, when they evolved separately. And so you get a whole branching system of how, as we spread across the planet, how we separated from each other. Well, if you go backwards along those trails, all of the trails lead back to Africa 150,000 years ago. That was the birthplace of our species. I keep waiting for the Ku Klux Klan to invite me so I can tell them we're all Africans. What's your problem? When you look or think of the plains of Africa when we appeared, there would have been animals in abundance and variety beyond anything you could see in the Serengeti today. And we were just this two-legged, furless ape kind of one, not very impressive. There weren't many of us. We weren't very big. We weren't fast, strong, no special sensory ability. Our secret was hidden. It was 1.5 kilograms organ buried in our skulls. It was the human brain that was our great gift, that more than compensated for our lack of physical and sensory ability. That brain was observant. That brain was curious. It was inventive. And it remembered. And that was the incredible thing. Once we had developed a voice system and language, we could transmit what we learned as we looked around to each generation so that they didn't have to mess up the way we did. So cultural evolution accelerated beyond anything you would see in the biological world. We did something, I think, that was key to our great success. We invented an idea called the future. The future doesn't exist. What exists is now and what we can remember from the past. But because we invented the notion of a future, we are the only animal that can look ahead and see where dangers lie based on experience and observations, see where there are hazards, and then take action in the present to avoid these dire consequences in the future. We could shape the future by what we do in the present. Foresight, I believe, was one of the great gifts of our species, of our ancestors. And you can see it, I'm sure, in the Muslim faith, in other faiths, this idea of foresight is embedded. I'm not a Christian, but in the Bible, you know, Joseph, the boy with the coat of many colors, he had this gift to read dreams. And he told the Pharaoh, there's a famine coming. Get your people to store grain. And because of Joseph's ability to look ahead, they endured 7 years of famine and got through it. Noah, he was just a carpenter. Voice comes, says, build an ark. Everybody will laugh at me. I don't want to build an ark and load it up with animals and plants. And because of the foresight, the flood came and they survived. Foresight was the great gift that enabled the success of our species. Today, we've got all of the increased ability to look ahead. We have scientists. We have supercomputers. And for over 50 years, the leading scientists of the world have been telling us we're heading along a very dangerous path, that there are alternatives. Just let me quote from one of the most remarkable documents called World Scientists' Warning to Humanity in 1992. I forgot to bring my copy, but I've memorized it. Signed by over 1,700 senior top scientists, including over half of all Nobel Prize winners alive at that time. And what it said is, Human beings and the natural world are on a collision course. Human activities inflict harsh and often irreversible damage on the environment and on critical resources. If not checked, many of our current practices put at serious risk the future we wish for human society, and may so alter the living world that it will be unable to support life in the manner that we know. That's a pretty stark statement coming from scientists. That was released in anticipation of the Earth Summit in Rio in the fall of 1992. 25 years later, 16,000 scientists signed a document called World Scientists' Warning to Humanity 2, pointing out that all of the problems anticipated in 1992, except for ozone depletion, all of the other problems are worse, and there are more problems today than we didn't acknowledge or recognize back in 1992. So what's going on? The leading scientists of the world are telling us, and we're turning our backs on the very survival strategy of our species. And I think that the problem is that we've undergone a very rapid and fundamental shift on the way that we see ourselves in the world. Because the way we see the world shapes the way we act towards it. Wade Davis, one of the well-known anthropologists here in BC, I met Wade in Peru years ago in a village on the side of the Andes Mountains. And he said, David, the kids here are taught from childhood that this mountain is an apu. An apu in their language means a god. And as long as that Mount Apu casts its shadow on the village, it will determine the fate of everyone in that village. And Wade said to me, can you imagine how those kids, when they grow up, treat that mountain compared to a kid in Trail, BC, who's taught all his or her life, those mountains are full of gold and all kinds of minerals. The way we see the world shapes the way that we see it. So if the earth is our mother, it seems to me we're going to act in a very different way from if we just see it as an opportunity. Is a forest a community of organisms or just timber and pulp? Is a river the veins of the land or simply an opportunity for irrigation and power? Is soil dirt or is it a complex living organism? The way we see the world shapes the way that we treat it. And for 99% of human history, we lived within what we call an ecocentric way of seeing the world. We saw ourselves as one strand in a web of relationships with all other species of plants and animals, with air, water, soil, and fire. And when you live in a web and you're one strand, then whatever you do when you wiggle around reverberates throughout the web. And so that living demands that we have responsibility. That we have a responsibility, as Indigenous people tell us, to act in a good way so that it can continue to be as generous and abundant as we've received it. But we've undergone a big shift. I believe it started before the Renaissance, when we began, rather than seeing ourselves embedded in a web of relationships, we began to extricate ourselves from that web. We saw ourselves as different and special. And we can go through the Renaissance and the change in the way we thought in terms of Isaac Newton and René Descartes and Francis Bacon. I normally give a whole hour speech on this. I think the big shift, though, started about 300 years ago with the Industrial Revolution. As we began to create machines that could do things no human could do, no animal could do. We could create machines that would work tirelessly 24 hours a day. They don't need to take a break to go to the bathroom or eat. We could move mountains. We can cut off entire mountaintops. We could create lakes by damming rivers. We know we could exceed the ability of any biological creature. Our vehicles can travel faster than the speed of sound. We can live under the water. We can live in outer space free of gravity. We have come to think there are no limits on what humans can do, and except our imagination. And now we're so smart, we've invented machines that are smarter than us, and now we're scared stiff, and we should be scared stiff. But we began to shift then out of an ecocentric perspective into what's called an anthropocentric way of seeing ourselves. And I say it's like a pyramid. You referred to that. We're at the top, and everything down below is for us. And we're all operating within that concept. So even environmentalists run around within, we don't want to alter that relationship. We just have to be more careful. And that's the problem that we face with the politics, the economics, the ethics. These are all, politics, economics, and law, our legal systems, and our ethics, they're all based on the assumption of the supremacy of our species. And we think we're all in charge. And all of these systems we've created to manage human behavior and human interactions have left out the very things that keep us alive and healthy. That is the earth itself. So there's no reciprocity. And we think that we've got to, act the right way, and politicians are locked into their system. We've run out of time, folks. We don't have time to play it politically. We need to act now. And if we don't respond as a human, this is a human crisis, where one of the earlier speakers said, that climate change offers us an opportunity to act together. Absolutely. We've got such wonderful diversity of ethnicity, of gender, of culture, of language, and we love the diversity. That's why we love tourism. We love to travel and see it. We don't go there for more McDonald's or KFC. We go to see the diversity. We revel in it. But the diversity itself has become an impediment too often for us working together. Climate change says we all are one species. Despite all of the diversity, we're one species. Let's act together on that issue as one species. And there, the diversity, I believe, will be an enormous power. We need a diversity of ways of seeing how we can extricate ourselves from this mess. But I don't know how we can escape the windows that we have. Politics divides things up so that George only... I have no idea what the environment means when it's under your jurisdiction, when so much of the environment's been left out of your portfolio. We have to stop seeing the separateness in the same way. Mental health, wait a minute now, how is mental health any different from physical health or ecological health? I mean, that's all one system. We need to be able to look and act on the basis of the beautiful interconnectedness of everything. Sorry, I've gone on way too long. Thank you for allowing me to rant.